There are many countries with extreme realities, but surely it is hard to believe that in one of the most overpopulated countries on the planet, millions of people can survive on less than $15 a month and have a life expectancy of less than 50 years. In this new video of Uncensored World, we are going to know Burundi, the poorest country, but at the same time, one of the most extraordinary and resilient in the world. Burundi, a place with traditions as surprising as that of the Kunyaza, the custom that makes its women probably, and despite the economic and social difficulties they live, the most intimately satisfied of the planet, because a local custom forces to master the art of giving pleasure. Burundi is a country marked by misery, having been considered for decades as the poorest and least happy country in the world. A region where the majority of its population lacks access to electricity and the most basic resources, living in conditions where something as simple as owning a bicycle becomes a luxury item reserved only for a privileged few with the ability to change their lives. This vehicle has a different meaning in Burundi, since it not only symbolizes status, but also options for survival, although it also endangers those who own it, since driving on the roads of this country, considered among the most dangerous in the world, is an act that can literally cost you your life, as you will soon find out. The aggressiveness of life in Burundi is also reflected in its wild and unforgiving nature. Its waters are home to one of the world's fiercest predators, the dreaded Goliath tigerfish. This monster of nature, with its jaw full of sharp, enormous teeth, perfectly symbolizes the daily struggle for survival in Burundi. A living example of the saying, "The big fish eats the little fish," which unfortunately has a lot to do with this sad reality. Get ready to discover the curiosities, realities, and mysteries of the poorest and most unhappy country on Earth. Let's get started. Welcome to Burundi, one of the most enigmatic but unfortunately also challenging countries in Africa. Burundi has been considered the poorest country in the world for more than 6 decades by agencies such as the World Bank and the IMF, facing extreme conditions of poverty and inequality. The majority of its population lives on less than $15 a month, and large families depend on this income. The daily reality is bleak. In addition, only a fraction of the population has access to electricity, and unemployment affects the majority of its inhabitants, consolidating Burundi as the unhappiest country in the world, according to multiple studies. As you will see, this poverty has a profound impact on all aspects of life, which is why the average life expectancy barely exceeds 49 years, while access to basic services such as drinking water, education, and medical care is extremely limited. A good part of this reality has to do with its geography and history, as you will now understand. Located in the east of the continent, Burundi is a small country with a size that could be compared to that of countries like Belgium or El Salvador, or the state of Maryland in the United States, but with a population density that places it among the most populated countries in the world. Despite having an area of just 27,834 square kilometers, its population is well over 10 million people, making it an incredibly dense territory. To put it in perspective, Burundi ranks 17th in terms of population density worldwide. This extreme density is due, in part, to the country's high fertility rates, as Burundi has one of the highest birth rates in the world, which is curious, considering it has been ranked as the poorest country on the planet for decades. This phenomenon could be related to deep-rooted cultural practices and beliefs, such as Kunyaza, a tradition that encourages female stimulation and intimate satisfaction in relationships. While we will explore this fascinating topic later, suffice it to say that these customs have contributed to maintaining high fertility in a nation facing the worst of life's hardships. This has to do with the fact that, for decades, Burundi has been considered the poorest country in the world, and also the unhappiest. This reality has to do with the fact that the majority of the country's population has to survive on less than $15 a month, which is equivalent to approximately 250 Mexican pesos a month, about 8 pesos a day. In addition, and also because of this, life expectancy in the country averages 49 years, a figure that reflects the harsh conditions in which its population lives. These statistics are not only shocking, but reveal a reality that contrasts with the natural and cultural beauty of the country. A life of survival that has a lot to do with the scarcity of resources and lifestyle, with realities like the one you will soon learn about when risking your life on one of the most dangerous roads in the world, carrying huge loads on your back on bicycles without brakes. This poverty has deep roots in Burundi's geography and recent history. As a landlocked country, its economy is almost entirely dependent on agriculture, a sector highly vulnerable to climate change and with limited productivity due to lack of infrastructure and technology. In addition, Burundi lacks significant mineral resources that can be exploited to generate income, leaving it in an extremely weak economic position vis-à-vis its African neighbors. Burundi's recent past has also played a crucial role in its current situation. For decades, the country was marked by ethnic tensions and armed conflicts that devastated its infrastructure and economy. The civil war, fought for more than a decade, left deep scars not only on the population, but also on the country's ability to move forward as a nation. A significant example of this devastation is found in the drastic reduction of its indigenous population. The Twa, a pygmy people who inhabited these lands for millennia and are considered the oldest inhabitants of the African continent, once represented the largest part of Burundi's population. However, the lethal effects of devastating conflicts reduced the Twa to less than 1% of the country's current inhabitants. The Twa were drastically reduced after the arrival of the Hutu and Tutsi, people of Bantu origin who migrated to the area centuries ago. The Hutus, mainly farmers, and the Tutsis, dedicated to pastoralism, established social and political structures that relegated the Twa to the margins of society. This domination resulted in a significant loss of territory, resources, and autonomy for the Twa, who historically depended on the forests for their livelihoods. In addition to this, ethnic conflicts between Hutu and Tutsi, particularly during the tragic conflict in Rwanda, had devastating effects on the Twa. Although they were not the main target of these conflicts, massive displacement and widespread violence deeply affected this group. As a result, the Twa, who played a crucial role in Burundi's history and culture, are now struggling to maintain their traditions and identity in the face of marginalization and neglect. The situation of the Twiwe is a reflection of the impact that the conflicts have had on the social fabric of Burundi. Their drastic decline is not only a reminder of the atrocities suffered, but also a sign of cultural loss and the need to preserve the ethnic diversity that once enriched these lands. The example of the Twa is an example of what is happening in this society, something that also has to do with another factor that has contributed to Burundi's poverty: its limited access to energy resources. In Burundi, less than 5% of the population has access to electricity, which means that most economic activities are carried out in a manual and rudimentary manner. In schools and businesses, energy constraints have led to ingenious and precarious solutions. For example, in some communities, plastic bottles filled with water and chlorine embedded in roofs are used as a makeshift form of lighting during the day. This method, known as bottle light, refracts sunlight and provides sufficient brightness to illuminate interior spaces without the need for electricity. These creative strategies reflect the resilience of communities, but also highlight the urgency of improving the country's energy infrastructure. Lack of energy not only limits economic and educational opportunities, but also severely affects healthcare, which has a direct effect on both the hope and quality of life of Burundians, as health centers without adequate lighting or refrigeration for medicines face extreme challenges in caring for their patients, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and precariousness that seems almost impossible to break. In addition, Burundi faces significant challenges due to its geographical position. Surrounded by countries that also face economic and political problems, the country has few opportunities to trade or receive foreign investment. Its location, in the heart of East Africa, also makes it vulnerable to the impacts of regional conflicts and climate crises, which further hampers its development. Because of all these difficulties, Burundi has been repeatedly ranked in recent decades as the unhappiest country in the world, according to various international reports, such as the United Nations World Happiness Report. Economic constraints, lack of access to basic services such as electricity and medical care, and the scars of a past marked by ethnic conflict and civil war have contributed to this perception. For many people in Burundi, the daily struggle for survival leaves little room for emotional well-being, perpetuating a reality that stands in stark contrast to the cultural richness and resilience of its people. A daily struggle that reveals the extreme inequalities in Burundi, where something as common as a bicycle is considered a true luxury. In this country, this humble vehicle not only symbolizes status, but also hope, as having access to a bicycle can make the difference between survival and the end, in a country where opportunities are as limited as basic resources. For Burundians, a bicycle represents mobility, employment, and the possibility of improving the quality of life. Although often, like almost everything in this country, this reality also comes at a high cost of living. The motive behind this luxury is deeply rooted in the country's economy and geography. In Burundi, the bicycle is much more than a means of transportation. It is a vital tool for work and livelihood. Farmers use it to transport their crops, such as bananas, essential in the brewing of traditional banana beer, while others use it for long trade routes, or even to access distant markets. Unfortunately, acquiring a bicycle is out of reach for many, due to the disproportionate costs. If in Burundi the majority of the population lives on less than $15 a month, and bicycles sell for more than $100, many people would have to spend their entire salary for more than half a year to get one, which makes it impossible for many to own one. Despite its usefulness and potential for improving the quality of life of Burundians, this means of transport is also linked to one of the most tragic aspects of life in the country: its roads, considered among the most dangerous in the world. In a country with mountainous terrain and poor infrastructure, cyclists speed down steep hills carrying goods that can weigh hundreds of kilos. Surprisingly, many cyclists in Burundi descend steep slopes without brakes, as using them could cause tires to burst or unbalance the load due to the weight they are carrying. This makes every ride an act of extreme bravery, where risking one's life becomes part of the daily routine. The combination of sharp curves, unpredictable weather, and poor road conditions further increases the risks, resulting in frequent and tragic accidents, often fatal. Despite exposing themselves to deadly risks, many of them earn a mere 90 cents a day, while others, the less fortunate not having bicycles, walk for miles barefoot carrying their goods on their heads to earn less than $1 a day. In addition, the relationship between cyclists and truck drivers on these roads creates constant danger. In an attempt to save effort, many cyclists cling to the wake of trucks, a practice that not only endangers their lives but also those of other road users. Authorities have tried to implement regulations to prevent these behaviors, but cyclists, driven by necessity, often evade them. In this context, every bicycle trip is a bid for life, an act of courage that reflects the resilience and creativity of Burundians in the face of adversity. Paradoxically, despite the risks, the bicycle remains a symbol of wealth and success in Burundi. Owning one is an achievement that opens doors to job opportunities and improves living conditions. Crowded repair shops and farmers who depend on these vehicles to bring their products to market demonstrate their relevance in the local economy. But as you may have gathered, this same relevance underscores the harsh living conditions in the country, where danger and poverty coexist with amazing human fortitude, facing daily challenges with admirable determination. Fortunately, for the people of Burundi, it is not all adversity and deprivation, as one of their most notable cultural traditions is kunyaza, an intimate practice that puts female pleasure at the center of attention. This custom not only reflects respect for the needs of Burundian women, but also encourages a more humane and connected approach to couple relationships. Kunyaza, an intimate practice deeply rooted in Burundian culture, is much more than a physical act. It is an art that has been passed down from generation to generation as part of a cultural legacy that celebrates female pleasure. This ritual, which dates back to ancestral times, combines specific external stimulation techniques with an emotional connection between partners. Beyond pleasure, Kunyaza represents a space of communication and mutual respect, where the enjoyment of both is considered essential for a healthy relationship. In addition, the high fertility in Burundi may have much to do with the maintenance of this tradition of Kunyaza, as it is a practice that promotes reproduction and continuity of the family. Thinking about it, we take this opportunity to ask you, what do you think about Kunyaza? Would you like it to be practiced in your country? What has surprised you the most about Burundi? Would you like to visit it? Pause the video and leave us your comment. Doing so is the best way to be part of this channel and help us to keep working to bring you the best videos every week. So thank you. The most amazing thing is how Kunyaza has endured and continues to be practiced in a country with so many economic and social difficulties. Despite the adversities, this tradition remains a symbol of national pride and seems to be one of the main reasons behind Burundi's high fertility rates. According to several studies, the celebration of intimate pleasure and the importance of emotional bonding in relationships could be related to the average of 5 children per woman, one of the highest in the world, which stands out in a region where the struggle for survival is extreme and savage. A cultural richness that contrasts with the harsh reality of being considered the unhappiest country in the world according to the United Nations World Happiness Report. This nation struggles with extreme poverty, limited access to basic services, and an alarmingly low life expectancy. This complex reality, that of being considered the poorest and unhappiest country in the world, finds a disturbing reflection in the saying, "The big fish eats the little fish." This phrase, which describes the brutal struggle for survival, takes on a deeper meaning in Africa, and especially in Burundi, where inequalities and daily challenges are as palpable as in few other places in the world. It is sad to acknowledge that, on a planet with more than enough resources to sustain the entire population, it is heartbreaking to observe how in countries like this one, the struggle for life and minimum needs contrasts with the excess and waste of other regions. In Burundi, there is surely no more appropriate symbol to represent this struggle than the Goliath tigerfish, the country's most feared predator. This river monster, which inhabits the deep waters of Lake Tanganyika, has earned its reputation as one of the most voracious and lethal fish in the world. With its imposing size, which can exceed 2 meters in length, and its jaw full of sharp teeth, sometimes over 10 centimeters long, it is a lethal predator. In fact, there have been reports of disappearances and fatal attacks attributed to this fish, adding an aura of mystery and fear to its legend. Its razor-sharp teeth, combined with its size and strength, make it the king of these waters, and one of the main fears for the population. The Goliath tigerfish finds its home in Lake Tanganyika, one of the most impressive natural wonders of Burundi and Africa. This lake is the second deepest in the world and is home to an amazing biodiversity, with fish species such as this one, found nowhere else on the planet. In addition, its crystal-clear waters, surrounded by mountains and hills, offer a landscape of breathtaking beauty that contrasts with the hardships of daily life in the country. The lake is a vital source for local communities, providing livelihoods and a space for economic activities such as fishing. But it also represents a place where nature is as wild as it is breathtaking. In addition to Lake Tanganyika, Burundi hides other natural gems that few people know about. Among them are the Karera Falls, a set of waterfalls that offer a visual spectacle and are an example of the indomitable power of nature in this region. Likewise, the Kibera Rainforest Nature Reserve, with its dense vegetation and rich fauna, is a refuge for numerous endangered species and a reminder of the biodiversity that still persists in this small but fascinating country. These natural wonders are a vibrant contrast to the harsh human realities of Burundi, showing that even in the most adverse conditions, the beauty and resilience of nature can flourish. A country where, in addition to the dangers that can be found in its wild waters, on the roads, or in its daily living conditions, it is also seen in its extremely precarious housing, especially in the rural areas where a large part of the population resides. These houses are built with rudimentary materials such as mud, branches, banana leaves, and thatched roofs, making them highly vulnerable to inclement weather such as heavy rains and strong winds. Many of these dwellings do not have cement floors or adequate windows, leaving their occupants exposed to dust, insects, and disease. Inside, furnishings are minimal or non-existent. Large families often share a single sleeping space with no beds or mattresses, only mats on the floor. The lack of access to electricity exacerbates this situation, as lighting comes from kerosene lamps or simply from the sun. Drinking water is another luxury that many families cannot access, forcing them to travel long distances to collect it from rivers or community sources. In a context where the economy is marked by extreme poverty, begging is common, even among those who have some form of employment, and bartering remains a common practice for acquiring basic goods. This reliance on traditional methods for construction and subsistence perpetuates this cycle of extreme poverty, where families lack the means to improve their living conditions. This reality reflects the enormous difficulties faced by Burundians in their daily struggle to survive. Despite the extreme living conditions in Burundi, a good part of its population tries to smile at life with realities such as kunyaza, and also with one of the most extraordinary and striking beers that exist in the world, a beer made with banana. This drink, known as urwarwa, is not only an element of the daily diet, but also a symbol of union and celebration in Burundi. Brewed from bananas, this craft beer is sweet, slightly alcoholic, and deeply rooted in local traditions, making it an indispensable protagonist at weddings, gatherings, and other social events. The preparation of urwarwa is a fascinating process that reflects the creativity and self-sufficiency of the Burundians. Bananas, an essential crop in the country, are fermented together with millet or sorghum to give it body and a unique touch. Once fermented, the drink takes on a distinctive flavor that makes it special and deeply tied to Burundi's cultural roots. Urwarwa is not only produced in small quantities for local consumption, but is also shared generously among friends and neighbors, reinforcing a sense of community and solidarity in a nation facing so many challenges. Beyond being a simple beverage, urwarwa has a deep symbolism. In Burundi, sharing this beer is an act of hospitality and friendship, a gesture that invites one to put aside daily worries, at least for a moment, and celebrate life with those close to them. At weddings, it is common for hosts to offer urwarwa to guests as a sign of goodwill and prosperity. This drink, made with dedication and care, embodies the resilience of the Burundian people, who find in their traditions not only a way to sustain themselves, but also to preserve their cultural identity in the midst of adversity. Despite the enormous challenges it faces, Burundi continues to demonstrate that, even in the face of the most difficult circumstances, the human spirit can find ways to resist, adapt, and look forward to a better future. One of Burundi's greatest curiosities, reflecting this power and resilience of its people, is the drum dance, a unique and vibrant cultural tradition. In this spectacular display, vigorous men play huge drums while executing perfectly synchronized movements that embody the connection with nature and symbolize power. The drums, handcrafted from wood and animal skin, resonate with an intensity that seems to mimic the heartbeat of the earth itself. This ancestral practice has deep roots in the social and spiritual life of the country, as historically drummers represented the authority of the king, the unity of the nation, and the balance with nature. Burundian drums are not mere musical instruments. They are an emblem of national pride and cultural identity. Traditionally, their rhythms were reserved for important events such as births, coronations, and funerals, reinforcing their sacred role in the community. Their performance, which requires strength, discipline, and synchronization, is a testament to the collaborative spirit and resilience of the Burundians, a people who have managed to keep their heritage alive even in the midst of adversity. Over time, Burundian drummers have crossed borders, achieving international fame for their passionate performances. They have taken their art to global stages, earning recognition as cultural ambassadors of their country. These performances not only showcase their extraordinary skill, but also draw attention to Burundi's traditions and challenges, generating interest in its history and culture. The drums, as a symbol of hope and resilience, echo the strength of a people who, despite hardships, continue to proudly play the rhythms of their identity. Despite these examples of resilience, the gap between rich and poor in Burundi is one of the most striking in the world. While a small urban elite has access to assets, education, and opportunities, the majority of the rural population lives in absolute precariousness, surviving on minimal income and relying on subsistence agriculture. This marked imbalance not only reinforces the difficulties of life, but also fuels social and political tensions, aggravating the problems of its population. The lack of opportunities for the majority of Burundians creates a sense of stagnation, where opportunities seem reserved for a privileged few. In the year 2014, the government banned running in groups in Burundi, becoming an example of how inequalities and political control are manifested in the daily lives of Burundians. Justified under the argument of preventing subversive or anti-government activities, this measure reflects the regime's constant fear of possible revolts after years of political tensions and conflicts. Such restrictions, although seemingly insignificant, limit the few opportunities for communities to strengthen their social cohesion. The lack of spaces for freedom of expression and community participation prevents the country's human potential from flourishing, making positive change difficult in the short term. Despite these types of realities, these people, who struggle daily against poverty and inequality, do not give up and seek alternatives that will allow them to improve their quality of life and that of future generations. In recent years, small but significant advances have been made in key areas such as education, health, and agricultural development. Initiatives driven by international organizations such as the World Food Programme and UNICEF have helped to improve child nutrition and ensure that more children have access to basic education. In addition, the government of Burundi has begun implementing plans to increase electrification in rural areas and improve transportation infrastructure, which could lay the foundation for more sustainable and secure economic growth in the country. One example of external support comes from countries such as Japan, which has funded projects to improve agriculture and food security in Burundi. This support includes the introduction of sustainable agricultural technologies, such as irrigation systems, which help farmers increase their productivity and cope with the effects of climate change. Another sign of resilience and hope in Burundi is the increasing participation of women in the economy and politics. Local and foreign organizations have worked to empower women, enabling them not only to contribute to the livelihoods of their families, but to foster greater gender equality in a traditionally patriarchal society. As you have seen, Burundi has a cultural, natural, and human wealth that deserves to be recognized and valued. We know the challenges are enormous, but we are also confident in the ability of the Burundian people to overcome adversity. The resilience of its people, combined with the support of the international community and a renewed commitment on the part of its leaders, gives us reason to believe that a better future is possible. From Uncensored World, we sincerely hope that this country, which has gone through and is going through so many difficulties, can soon find its way to a more prosperous and happier future. May the strength and ability of its people to overcome adversity be rewarded with more opportunities and well-being. We hope that this journey through the mysteries and curiosities of Burundi has been as exciting for you as it has been for us. Thinking about it, and the effort it takes us to make these videos, we would love you to leave us a nice like and your comment. is the best way you have to help us to continue bringing you the best content every week. If you enjoyed this video and you are not subscribed yet, don't wait any longer and do it now by activating the little bell so you don't miss the fascinating videos we make every week. Videos like this one that you can enjoy now to know one of the most fascinating corners of the planet. Don't miss it and discover the wonders that this place has to offer.